Madison Square Garden hummed with electric anticipation on that crisp March evening in 1971. The air felt heavy with possibility, laden with the collective breath of 20,000 spectators who had come to witness what many called the fight of the century. Muhammad Ali, formerly Cassius Clay, the self-proclaimed greatest of all time, stood in his corner, eyes fixed on his opponent across the ring. Sweat glistened on his brow, catching the harsh overhead lights that transformed the boxing ring into a stage for the unfolding human drama. Ali had been stripped of his heavyweight title 3 years earlier for refusing military induction during the Vietnam War, citing his religious beliefs and famously declaring, "I ain't got no quarrel with them Viet Cong." Now, after a Supreme Court victory had overturned his conviction, he was fighting not just for a championship, but for vindication, for his principles, for his very identity in the American consciousness. Across the ring stood Chuck Wepner, a journeyman boxer known as the Bayonne Bleeder, for his tendency to cut easily. Wepner wasn't supposed to last long against Ali. The odds makers had him as a massive underdog, expected to fall within the first few rounds to Ali's legendary speed and precision. Yet here they were in the 13th round, and Wepner was still, standing, bloodied but unbowed, his face a mask of determination and growing damage. If this story has already made you feel something, no matter how small, don't leave without giving back. Comment and tell me where you're watching this video from, and subscribe to the channel. Between rounds, Ali's trainer, Angelo Dundee, whispered urgently in his ear, "He's tough, champ, but he's taking too much punishment. You need to end this now. It's getting dangerous for him." Ali nodded, his usual pre-fight bravado replaced by a focused intensity. He understood what Dundee meant. Boxing wasn't just about winning, it was about recognizing when enough was enough. As a Muslim who had embraced Islam and changed his name, Ali held strong convictions about justice and compassion, beliefs that had cost him dearly in his career, but which defined him as much as his lightning-fast jabs. The bell rang, signaling the start of the 14th round. Ali moved forward with renewed purpose, his footwork still graceful despite the fatigue of 13 grueling rounds. Wepner met him in the center of the ring, his face a roadmap of cuts and bruises, left eye nearly swollen shut, but his spirit undiminished. What happened next would be remembered not for its brutality, but for its humanity. Ali connected with a flurry of punches that sent Wepner stumbling back against the ropes. The crowd rose to its feet, sensing the end was near. The referee moved closer, watching carefully as Ali pursued his wounded opponent. In that moment, with Wepner cornered and vulnerable, the referee leaned in toward Ali and uttered the words that would later become part of boxing lore. "Finish him, Ali. End it now." The champion's response would ripple through sports history, challenging conventional notions of victory and what it truly means to be a champion. Time seemed to slow in that pivotal moment. Ali had Wepner against the ropes, defenseless and exhausted. The referee's instruction hung in the air between them. "Finish him, Ali. End it now." Every instinct of competitive sport demanded that Ali deliver the final combination that would send his opponent crashing to the canvas, securing a knockout. Victory that the crowd hungered for, but as Ali looked at Wepner's battered face, something shifted in his expression. Those who knew him well could see the subtle change, a momentary flicker of recognition, of humanity transcending the primal drive for dominance. Muhammad Ali, never one to follow instructions he disagreed with, made a decision in that fraction of a second that defied conventional boxing wisdom. Instead of launching the devastating flurry that everyone expected, Ali stepped back slightly. He continued to box, landing precise jabs that scored points but deliberately pulled the power from his punches. Rather than going for Wepner's already damaged eye or targeting his unsteady legs, Ali focused on body shots and glancing blows that maintained his dominance without inflicting unnecessary harm. The referee looked puzzled. Dundee shouted from the corner, urging Ali to finish the fight. The crowd's roar took on a confused tone as they sensed something unusual happening in the ring. This wasn't the merciless competitor they had come to see. "What are you doing?" the referee hissed during a clinch, low enough that only Ali could hear. "He's done. Put him away." Ali disengaged from the clinch and gave the referee a look that spoke volumes. Later, those who studied the footage would debate what Ali whispered in response, but those closest to the ring claimed he said simply, "He's a man with dignity. Let him finish on his feet." As the 14th round continued, a strange dynamic emerged. Ali maintained clear control, landing enough punches to secure the round decisively on the scorecards, but he boxed with a restraint that boxing purists found puzzling. He created distance when he could have closed in, jabbed when he could have hooked, and when Wepner occasionally lunged forward with desperate swings, Ali would slip the punches with his legendary defensive skills rather than counter with potentially fight-ending blows. In his corner before the 15th and final round, Dundee grabbed Ali by the shoulders. "What are you doing out there? This isn't an exhibition. Finish this fight properly." Ali took a sip of water and calmly replied, "I am finishing it properly, Angie. My way." The final round began with Wepner somehow still standing, still coming forward despite the accumulation of punishment. The Madison Square Garden crowd, initially bloodthirsty for a knockout, had fallen into a strange, respectful hush as they witnessed something rare in heavyweight boxing. A form of compassion that didn't diminish the competition, but somehow elevated it. Ali continued his strategy, boxing beautifully, scoring points, demonstrating his superiority with every exchange, but refusing to deliver the brutal finale that the referee and many fans expected. When the final bell rang, Ali had won every round on the judges' scorecards, a dominant, unquestionable victory that required no exclamation point of unconsciousness. As the referee raised Ali's hand in victory, the champion turned to Wepner and embraced him with genuine respect. The crowd, initially confused by the lack of a knockout, began to understand what they had witnessed. The applause grew, transforming into a standing ovation, not just for the victory, but for the manner in which it had been achieved. The post-fight press conference erupted with questions about Ali's unusual strategy in the final rounds. Sports writers, hungry for explanations, pressed him on why he hadn't finished Wepner when he clearly had the opportunity. In an era when boxing was defined by its brutality, Ali's restraint seemed almost revolutionary. "I'm the greatest," Ali began with his characteristic confidence. But being great isn't just about destroying your opponent. Sometimes it's about knowing when enough is enough. He leaned forward into the microphone, his voice taking on a more serious tone. "That man Wepner showed heart tonight. He earned the right to finish the fight on his feet. I won every round. I proved I was better. What would knocking him unconscious have proven, except that I can hurt someone who's already beaten?" The sports writers scribbled furiously. This wasn't the narrative they had expected, but it was pure Ali, defying expectations, challenging conventions, making people think beyond the simplistic narratives of victory and defeat. Later that evening, in the quiet of his hotel room, Ali received an unexpected visitor. Chuck Wepner, his face swollen but his eyes clear, had come to speak with the champion. The conversation that followed was private, but those close to both men would later reveal that it marked the beginning of a friendship based on mutual respect. "You could have finished me," Wepner reportedly told Ali. "Why didn't you?" Ali's response was characteristic of his complex worldview. "Allah judges us not by how we treat our equals, but by how we treat those at our mercy. Tonight, you fought with honor. You deserved an honorable ending." The boxing world's reaction to the fight was mixed. Traditional boxing commentators criticized Ali for showboating and disrespecting the sport by not pursuing the knockout. Gambling interests were particularly vocal, as many bets had been placed on an Ali knockout victory. But a significant portion of the public, including many who had previously been critical of Ali's political stances, found themselves contemplating the meaning of his choice. In the days following the bout, an editorial in the New York Times captured this shifting perspective. In a sport defined by its capacity for violence, Muhammad Ali demonstrated that true greatness may lie not in the infliction of damage, but in the restraint of power. In refusing to unnecessarily harm an already defeated opponent, Ali may have taught us more about strength than any knockout ever could. For Wepner, the fight had an unexpected effect on his career. Rather than being remembered as just another victim of Ali's brilliance, he gained respect for his courage and durability. His performance against Ali and the dignified way the fight concluded opened doors that might otherwise have remained closed. Sylvester Stallone, watching the bout, found inspiration for the character of Rocky Balboa, the underdog who goes the distance against the champion. Ali himself would reference the fight in subsequent years when discussing his philosophy on boxing and life. "A true champion," he often said, "knows the difference between winning and proving a point. I didn't need to hurt that man to prove I was better." The scorecard said it all. The referee who had urged Ali to finish Wepner later admitted in a rare interview, "I didn't understand what he was doing at the time. I thought he was playing with his food, so to speak. But looking back, I see it differently." That night, Ali taught me something about this sport that I hadn't considered in 30 years of officiating. Years passed, and the story of the fight took on different dimensions in the public memory. What initially seemed like an anomaly in Ali's career became recognized as a defining moment that illuminated the character behind the champion's bravado. Sports historians began to cite the bout as an example of ethical sportsmanship that transcended the win-at-all-costs mentality often associated with professional boxing. In 1984, more than a decade after the fight, Ali was diagnosed with Parkinson's syndrome, a condition many neurologists linked to the punishment he had absorbed. In the ring throughout his career, as his physical health declined, the significance of his mercy toward Wepner gained new poignancy. In sparing his opponent unnecessary trauma, had Ali somehow intuited the long-term costs of the sport he dominated? During a retrospective interview, marking the 25th anniversary of the bout, a journalist asked Ali if he regretted not finishing Wepner when he had the chance. By then, Ali's voice was soft and his movements slowed by his condition, but his mind remained sharp and his principles unchanged. "Never," he replied, each word carefully formed. "That decision, I'm more proud of it than any knockout." When Wepner was asked about the same fight during a separate interview, his response revealed how deeply Ali's choice had affected him. "You know, for years, I was known as the guy who could take a punch, who would keep coming forward no matter what. That was my identity in boxing. But after that night with Ali, something changed. I realized there's more honor in how you face adversity than in how much punishment you can absorb." The boxing establishment eventually came around as well. In 2005, when the World Boxing Council created an ethics code for the sport, they included a clause about unnecessary punishment that directly referenced Ali's conduct in the later rounds against Wepner. The principle became known informally among trainers and referees as the Ali Rule, an acknowledgement that sometimes the greater victory lies in restraint. Perhaps the most profound legacy of that night emerged, not in the world of sports, but in the countless personal stories of individuals inspired by Ali's example. A schoolteacher in Detroit who broke up a playground fight and used Ali's story to teach her students about restraint and true strength. A young boxer from the Bronx who withdrew from a match when he realized his opponent was concussed, citing Ali as his inspiration, a business executive who declined to bankrupt a competitor when he had the legal means to do so, later explaining, "I learned from Muhammad Ali that true victory doesn't require the destruction of your opponent." Ali himself, despite the physical limitations imposed by his illness, continued to speak about the philosophy that had guided his actions that night. During a rare public appearance in 2001, he summarized it with characteristic simplicity. "The measure of a champion isn't how hard he can hit, but how wise he is about when not to." When Muhammad Ali passed away in 2016, the obituaries and tributes naturally focused on his most famous bouts: the Rumble in the Jungle against George Foreman, the Thriller in Manila against Joe Frazier. But for those who understood the man behind the legend, the night he refused a referee's instruction to finish a vulnerable opponent spoke just as loudly about his character as any of his spectacular victories. In boxing, a sport where legends are typically built on moments of devastating finality, Muhammad Ali created one of his most enduring legacies with an act of restraint. In choosing compassion over dominance, in recognizing the humanity of his opponent, even in the heat of competition, Ali demonstrated a form of greatness that transcended the boundaries of sport. Today, when young boxers train in gyms across the world, coaches still tell the story of the night when the greatest heavyweight champion in history was told to finish his opponent, and instead chose to finish the fight with dignity, respect, and a higher understanding of what victory truly means. If you made it this far and felt every word, don't leave without subscribing, okay? I tell these stories with my heart in my hands to reach people like you, who feel, who get emotional, who truly live. If this touched you, give back, comment, subscribe, come be part of this family with me until the next video.